After winning their first national championship since 1980, is the University of Georgia a top 10 college football program of all time? Of course, this is a question we see often in the offseason. If you're on the internet, this is a question that people ask often. And people love getting their list together, right, of top 10 college football programs ever. And more often than not, Georgia is not on that list. And of course, I cover the team, so I disagree for a number of different reasons. And that's really what this video is about. And I'm going to break down why. But first, I think you have to acknowledge the top tier programs, right? The ones that have clearly done more than Georgia in the last 120 plus years, right? You've got Alabama, Notre Dame, Southern Cal, Ohio State, LSU, Miami, and Oklahoma. So that is, those are 7 programs right there that I think you have to put above Georgia. So right now, at the highest, I think they could go as 8. And I can make the case for that too. I think another program that people think is just so outstanding and one of the best of all time is Michigan, right? They have the most wins of any college football program, and our big reasons why is because they've been playing longer than most other programs. They claim 11 national titles, but only one of them, actually only half, they've won since 1949. So in over 70 years, they have that one title in 1997 that they share with Nebraska. They don't have a full national championship in over 70 years. They're a program that has been stagnant. Last year was the best year they've had in a long, long time, and we saw what happened when they went up against a program like Georgia. So they're not what they used to be. This is not your great-great-grandfather's Michigan. I'm glad they were really good with leather helmets on, but it's hard for me to continue imagining that Michigan is a better program than Georgia. I know they claim more national titles, and they've got more wins, obviously, but I think you have to kind of imagine and see what have they done for me lately type of deal. And Georgia has more national titles in the last 50 years. They're obviously the better program right now and have been in recent memory. Michigan's just not the same. And so when I keep seeing them in these lists of top 10, top 5 programs of all time, it just makes me shake my head. Another was Nebraska, right? I mean, yes, they were good in the 50s and they had their run in the 90s, but they have been so embarrassingly bad the last 20 years that has to make up for that. So I know they have more national titles and more wins than Georgia, but they're not on the same level anymore, right? And I think Nebraska's might never get back to where they once were. And I think with another national championship, Georgia is easily above Nebraska as it relates to greatest college football programs of all time. Right now, I get what people are saying that Nebraska is a great program, and historically they are. But eventually, sometime soon, I think you have to admit that, okay, Georgia has passed teams like Nebraska and Penn State, right? Penn State, 2 national titles, both in the 80s. They're not going to win one in the next 40 years. So in a few years, it's going to be 40 years since they've won their last national championship. They have 909 wins, more than Georgia's 853. But eventually, Georgia's going to have to pass Penn State. What will it take for the college football world, right, fans, analysts, media members to acknowledge and say, hey, okay, Georgia is probably a better program all time than Penn State? I think it's tough to imagine now for a lot of people, especially up north, who don't understand and grasp how good Georgia has been, especially lately. If we're talking best programs since in the last 20 years, Georgia's easily top 10, maybe top 5. Best program since 1980, Georgia's still probably up there towards the top. So yes, I appreciate what Michigan has done a while ago, especially in the 80s. But it's hard for me to imagine that Penn State is currently, or all time, definitely not currently, but all time still better than Georgia. Tennessee, right? This one's could get a lot of people triggered if Tennessee fans are watching this. They have 3 more victories all time than Georgia. Georgia's going to pass them. Georgia leads the all-time series with Tennessee. Tennessee claims 6, but they've national titles. They've only won 1 since 1967. Of course, that was in 1998. So Georgia has the most recent national championship. They've got more SEC titles, more SEC Eastern titles, more national titles in the last 50 years. They lead the series. Again, I know Tennessee historically was better than Georgia way back in the day, especially in the 90s too during their heyday, but they haven't sniffed anything in the past 20 years. They just haven't been relevant, and I think that has to go into account. As good as they once were, they've also been really bad, and I think that has to go into play when talking about, we're talking about all-time programs, not when they're at their best, but at their worst too, and they have been really, really bad. Texas, they claim 4 national titles. They only have 1 since 1971. Of course, that was in 2005, one of the best college football games of all time. If they lose that game to Southern Cal, they don't have a single national title since 1971. So Georgia has more in the last 50 years. They've won the more recent. They don't have the number of wins. Again, Texas has that kind of old school history mentality. And yeah, they were great in the 70s too. They turn out players. They've got Heisman Trophy winners, All-Americans. But you can make the case that Georgia has been the all-time better program than Texas if you kind of break it down, especially more recent. And I think that the more recent championships and winning seasons means a lot more now than, again, when they played back in leather helmets. But I understand Texas is a great program, not necessarily right now, but all time. But still, I think you could make the case to put Georgia ahead of them. I talked about Penn State a little bit. Florida is right there. 3 national titles. Of course, all of them are in recent memory. So they have the same number of national titles as Georgia. Georgia leads the head-to-head. And they've got the more recent national title. And they've won more SEC Eastern divisions, I believe, than Florida. I think that could be up in there. I don't have that one written down in front of me. But you can make the case Florida to be over Georgia. I think historically Georgia's been better. They have more wins. Again, they lead the all-time series. But 3 national titles in recent memory, I think, could give Florida the edge there. But they're on the same level. I think LSU is a team I mentioned before. They've done more than Georgia. Oklahoma has done more than Georgia. Miami. So those 7 programs are definitely the top tier. But I think Georgia's right there on the cusp of that. And I think they're only 3 behind Southern Cal in talking about wins all time. So they're up there. I'm not going to talk about Yale, Princeton, Harvard, blah, blah, blah. But they're all the big boys, and Georgia has become one of the big boys there. And if they win another national title, they're clearly above Penn State and Tennessee. Florida State's another team, 3 national titles, but they've been really, really bad for quite a few years now, and that hurts their reputation all time, in my opinion. So, but if they get one more and Kirby Smart gets his second at Georgia, then you are talking about them being in that close to the top 5 range of all time. The program's not going anywhere. It's going to take a long time for Nebraska to do anything. I think the same for Penn State. I think they're a program in kind of neutral right now. Same for Texas and others. So eventually, when Georgia passes these teams and wins too, and they can bring home another trophy, I think it's safe to say that they are not only a top 10 program, but probably a top 5 program in the near future. So that's what I think. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Of course, we love reading those. Thanks for watching this video. Again, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now, and I will see you over on the website.